He's an elected member of both the American College of Nutrition and the International College of Integrative Medicine, co-author of Reduce Blood Pressure Naturally. He has written and produced over a dozen educational videos on various health topics, including cancer, heart disease, diabetes, detoxification, and children's emotional problems. With a booked-up full-time private practice, he still finds time to be the vice president of the 56-year-old Price Pottenger Foundation. And he gives lectures and seminars to both professionals and the public. All right, David's topic this afternoon is how the research findings of Weston A. Price, a dentist, and Francis Marion Pottenger Jr., a physician, can improve the dental and overall health of your family and patients. Please welcome David Gedoff.
I see we have these marvelous disclaimers. AGB disclaimer, I do or do not. I have no financial interest in basically anything. The only things that I have done that are my own are my educational videos, and any supplements or any products that I may mention are just those that I happen to like and use. I have no financial interest in anything. And as a non-profit, I don't have any financial interest in the Price Pottenger Foundation. I just donate my time. That being done, we will start out. And let's see if everything will work here. Perfect. Many of you have already seen this book, whether you've seen the new cover or not, I don't know. Nutrition and Physical Degeneration is a book that basically just chronicles all of the travels of Dr. Weston Price, which many of you know. I lecture about this in other areas that nobody's ever heard of Weston Price. But of course, Weston Price found out tremendous amounts of information having to do with dental health and root canals. And see how everything goes here. Okay. Just so you'll know, the book has recently been redone. How do you redo a book by somebody that died a long time ago? We are the copyright holders of all of his information. And so we decided that, although it's his book and they're all his words, that he probably wouldn't be too upset if we added some more of his photographs that we have to give people more things that have never been in there, and some more of his words and some letters written to him and from him. So the new edition actually is really new. It's not just a new cover, which is sort of nice, because usually things just get reprinted. But as many of you know, he lives with populations around the world. And as a dentist, he decided that the best way to look at health was to look inside people's mouths. And this population in this room already knows this, but most people out there, and certainly most physicians, don't understand that a very good way to take a look at somebody's overall health is, in fact, to look in their mouth. And then although that's possibly only where things are starting, it's going to show problems that are going to occur later. This is the new cover for Pottenger's Cats, and that's Dr. Pottenger's book, and we'll talk about his cat study a little bit. But for many, many years, the photograph was not a photograph. It was a hand drawing by somebody in the Pottenger family. And we decided, since we have to reprint it, let's put a real photograph on there. And Kahlua got honored. I have two, and we refer to them as Pottenger cats because they're 9th generation, 100% raw meat and unvaccinated. And so this is actually one of my cats, which is sort of interesting. And we'll be talking about Pottenger's cat study and what he found as he was doing similar work and similar findings with cats as Dr. Price did when he was looking at humans around the planet. So we're going to start out with the Pottenger cat study and take a look at how some of the investigations were basically looking at the same types of things that we see in humans. First of all, which foods were destroying the animal's health, and how long did it take for the health to be diminished, which varied depending on what particular thing you were looking at. How does this relate to human lifespan, because we also had major problems with the lifespan and fertility. What conditions were occurring, we'll talk about that on the next slide. And some of the things that to me are absolutely the most important having to do with the Pottenger research had to do with genetics. Because we're constantly being told over and over and over again that it's all genetics. There's no limit to what you can do with all genetics. Although I go to many, many conferences all over the United States, mostly nutritional-based medical conferences. And when we do get geneticists up there in front of us, which is not too often, what they tell us is not what we're being told by media, which is fascinating. Media, of course, is not really there to educate us. It's too bad. It'd be nice if they were. Media is there to sell media. So they're there to sell their magazines, they're there to sell the newspapers. And so if there's a new research study that's the only one out of 50,000 they're still going to plaster it across, oh, vitamin D is bad for you, and you shouldn't eat good foods, and organic is bad. Because it sells a newspaper, everybody wants to get it and see what they have to say, but it has nothing to do with reality. Well, the same thing is true of what we're being told about genetics. We're being told that genetics have a huge, absolutely huge deal having to do with what's going to happen to you, or what's going to happen to us. I'm one of us as well, as we get older. When you get the geneticists up there, they say, well, actually, we find out that only maybe 6 to 10 or 6 to 12, or one person said 6 to 15% of what happens to us has to do with our genetics. And if you really look further, whether those genetic things express themselves, which is simply the way it's said, could bring that down almost to zero, because if you eat the right foods and don't get exposed to the wrong toxins, or help your body get rid of those toxins, then those genetic predispositions are never going to happen anyway. So I consider genetics to be a smaller amount in many ways, but as far as the cat study, what I thought was fascinating is if you eat, and let's just say incorrectly, we'll go over a little bit about what that is, but if you eat non-species specific to what you should be eating, it causes genetic problems. The easiest way to prove that, which Pottenger did with cat studies, is simply take some conditions that healthy populations, that of course Price studied, that nobody ever had, and then cause those conditions by feeding humans or cats something that isn't correct, and all of a sudden everybody starts needing eyeglasses by the time they're 20 years old. Or everybody starts getting diabetes, or not everybody, but far too many people by the time they're 40 or 50 or 60 years old. Or any other number of things, osteoporosis, arthritis, etc. And then the next generation, many of them start getting it far earlier because we've already given them a genetic predisposition by the wrong foods in the last generation. And a larger number of people need glasses, get diabetes, whatever. It compounds itself because the foods are causing genetic problems. We need to understand this. The foods are causing genetic problems. But what I thought was phenomenal, and really the most important thing that I got out of the Pottenger cat study, was that somehow or other, our genes, our DNA, our RNA, we learn more about it, all of it every year, they still know what they're supposed to do. And we're simply preventing them from doing it correctly because of the toxic load, because of the wrong foods, because of inadequate nutrients, because of toxic nutrients. And therefore, when he put the cats that had been on, again, what he called improper diets, and they started degrading, we'll go over a little bit of that. When he took those that still had fertility, because we're losing fertility, there were no, I'm 57, I'll be 57 in April, there were no fertility clinics that I ever heard advertised. It just wasn't advertised. When I was a kid, I never heard any of that. As I grew older in New York at 27, 28, 29, before I moved to San Diego, I never heard that. Now, you can't listen to a radio or a television. Actually, I don't know if I hear them on TV, on the radio. You can't listen to radio for more than a few weeks before there's going to be some sort of an ad for a fertility clinic. Because our fertility is going down. It's one of the things that starts to go away. And what he showed was that if you took those that could still reproduce, the cats, and put them on the perfect diet that didn't cause any problems, it took approximately 5 generations, but all of the genetic predispositions and abnormalities went away. And we now have perfect health. Now, it's not going to be very easy to do that in humans because we have a longer lifespan. So to get a group of people for 5 generations to eat perfectly, when I'm sure just in this group of a few hundred, we'd be able to have at least 10 different people with 10 different what is perfectly. But nonetheless, he did that with the cats, and all the problems went away. So our genetics, our DNA still knows what to do. And even though we can't get 100% reversal by changing our diet and doing things correctly, we can get a hell of a lot of benefits. If we were able to do it for multiple generations, which would be fascinating, we would be able to get backwards in health to where we really all deserve to be. And of course, cooking destroys food, and microwaving, I could talk for a couple hours on microwaving, which I actually did in Washington, D.C. in front of 600 people 2 years ago. But there is published research in legitimate journals showing that the microwaving of food and other types of irradiation of food actually alters the food itself, so that if you're following blood chemistries all day with a group eating the microwave food or traditionally cooked foods, you can see that their immune system is being affected. As far as people that go, well, I have a microwave, but all I do is heat water, there's even some experiments on that. So my microwave was thrown out about 15 years ago when I read the first study on that. So let's take a look at some of the conditions. Poor skin and nails, which we have lots and lots of today in many of the people in my patient population. Problems with balance, I find that very interesting. And generally when I'm talking about that, I end up talking on one leg for a little while, because there was a PhD exercise physiologist that came into one of our nutrition conferences. And he started going over how, which many of you may have heard of in the past, that if you take the elderly, which I guess we're all becoming, that's too bad, so let's say the infirm, one of the things that causes the most problems is that when they fall after they're, let's say, in a retirement home, the percentage of those people that then get hospitalized and never recover and never come out of the hospital. So therefore, we'd like to prevent falling. And people talk about all sorts of different ways to prevent falling. And it has to do with, increasing their muscle strength and doing all sorts of various different things. This particular PhD said, we need to do balance exercises. Because although I've just stood on one leg for a minute or two, he said we could barely, if you have good balance, you can do all sorts of things and not fall over. He could not find almost anybody at any of the elderly institutions that could stand on one leg, either leg, for 15 seconds. And so they made that their little test. If you could stand on one leg and then the other leg for at least 15 seconds, you were amazingly less likely to fall if you just, happen to hit some little thing that somebody else wouldn't even know was there. And so balance is very important. And that's one of the things we got looked at with the cats as well. Poor bone strength, you see fractures, and of course, we're in a dental community, so we see all the problems in the teeth as well. Poor emotional stability, we have huge numbers of people on Prozac and every other type of drug you could possibly list. And inadequate skull formation, which was what both Price and Pottenger found. Price found it in people, Pottenger found it in the cats on the poor diet. And the result is improper dentition, not enough room for all the teeth. We're supposed to, I don't know how they ever got, I should look this up, how wisdom teeth ever became called wisdom teeth. But we're supposed to have a skull structure of adequate size so that when wisdom teeth come in, they don't have to be extracted. They're just another set of teeth. But we don't have that anymore. Inability to reproduce, we're just going over the fertility and the fertility clinic. So the degraded health of the cats are really very, very closely mirroring what was found or what is found in human population. One of the things that has come up over and over again is, oh, that's a cat study. Well, that's a little strange to call it that, because how many of the studies that get done today are all done on humans? Actually, it's not that many unless they're trying to approve a drug. Lots of them are done on animals because you can't get humans to do certain things. And some of the animal studies aren't really valid because I don't think you can really get animals to smoke cigarettes. So instead, you're putting them in a room filled with smoke. Is that exactly the same thing that happens if you're doing smoking? No, you're not in a room filled with smoke. So a lot of the animal studies aren't as valid, but a feeding study is a very simple study. And that's what he was looking at. And what he found was, at least go up here and take a look and see where I am. Children's skulls, and we're going back to Price, children's skulls are too small to house all their teeth, as I just mentioned. I put notes into myself here to make sure I don't want to mention things. And on braces, I don't recommend braces in my practice. If a child comes into me, or obviously parent brings a child in, and they mention, oh yeah, we're getting ready to bring Johnny or Jane or Eileen or Nicole or all the new names we have these days in to get braces. I go, I really would recommend you go to a good cranial osteopath first and see whether or not, after they do an examination, they feel, through osteopathic manipulation, that they can get the skull to want to start to move to where it should be instead of forcing it to be that way. And we have no research on these two different things. It's just that I like to do things in what I feel is the most natural way. And in general, the most natural way is not to force an issue. Is to try and get the body to change itself. And so I will try to do things in the ways that I feel are less forceful. We have a lot of reduced sinus cavity size. There are huge problems with sinusitis, multiple sensitivities, dentition problems, and neurological problems are actually now, we know, are also interrelated with the mouth. Because nobody would have ever thought that a neurological condition or a structural condition other than your head had anything to do with your mouth. But we now have a number of different dentists around the world that are actually treating other conditions, including somebody not being able to walk correctly or sinus problems, by adjusting bite. and the problems go away. So there's a lot of various different things that you people can do that some of you are doing, because I've spoken to a couple, but that everybody isn't, that are also part of dentistry, and it will help people in ways that you're not thinking about. So the properly fed, emotionally stable, and well-adjusted cats who did not want me to do this PowerPoint, and that's Tomsky and Kahlua, and because a laptop has a little bit of warmth to it, very often if I'm working and I walk out of the room for a couple minutes to do something else, I come in and one of them is asleep, or in this case they're both asleep, one's standing up. It makes them very happy, but when they've totally screwed up my presentation because I forgot to close it down, and as they walk across the keyboard, I have no idea what's going to happen. It's very interesting, but I do miss them, so it's nice to see their pictures. The rapidity of the health degradation and the ability of the body to regain optimal health were both phenomenal, and they were both found, again, by both scientists, both Price and Pottenger. They both, in, again, humans and in cats, found that it didn't take long on a diet that was not the perfect diet. Now, how do you know what the perfect diet is? Very simple. And all the people that think they know what perfect diets are, I want you to think about this, because this is the only way we will ever have to determine a perfect diet for any species. And that is, we need multi-generational diet of that type, and we need to follow the health. Different people will give you different numbers of generations, but based on what Pottenger and Price both found, I would say, if you want to prove to me what diet is a healthy diet, I don't even like the term diet, because if you look diet up, it's a temporary method of eating for a desired response. Diet shouldn't be temporary, so let's say method of eating. You want 5 generations on this way of eating, and you don't want there to be any difference or escalation of some type of condition in the 4th and 5th generation that you didn't see in the 1st. Because if there's some problem going on, you're going to see it get worse and worse and worse. Anytime somebody says, I tried this new diet, it's terrific, I love it, whatever it may be, rather than putting down a specific diet. And it's what I'm going to follow for the rest of my life. Well, it may have helped them get healthy because it's a detox diet. That's a therapeutic diet. You do it to detox. Now you go back and start bringing in all the things that you were missing. So you need multi-generational eating habits to determine whether a diet is healthy. What was recently verified here, having to do with a rapid return to perfection, and this can only be done if you start out at perfection. You're not going to get a rapid return to perfect health if somebody has already been in a horrible condition. But what Price found first was that if he had people in the societies where, because of the encroachment of industry and towns were having white man's food is what is often referred to, white flour, white bread, etc. And some of the kids decided that they would go a little bit further away instead of being in their tribal community. And they would end up in the white man's town. Very, very quickly they had problems. And if within a year or two, whether it was because of the problems or because the parents had come back to the village or whatever, if just after a short amount of time they came back, those problems would reverse. And that's been proven and documented just in the last couple of years by a woman scientist whose name I don't remember. My structure burned down in the wildfire, so a lot of my notes vanished, and I'm still recuperating, bringing things back. But what she found was, I believe she did it in New Zealand. She took some of the communities out in the brush, which were having no problems. And she followed a couple of the people who went into town and started developing diabetes. And it was properly registered and properly studied, and all the blood tests were done, and they were now diabetic. And those were brought back out to their communities, and the diabetes went away. Of course, I love diabetes, one of my favorite health conditions, because I can almost always reverse it with diet. If it's insulin dependent, we can't get a full reversal. But, she showed if they've been eating perfectly for years and years and years, it was basically a price-type population, because nobody had any problems. And they were just in town for, a year or two, and all of a sudden they got diabetes. Well, they're eating garbage. It could still be reversed. We can't reverse it quite as quickly if they've been there for a long time. So Pottenger found that it took 5 generations on the perfect, and I call it species-specific diet, to reverse the gene abnormalities when there was still fertility. He couldn't even mate the same generation of males and females because the males lost fertility first. So he had to use a lesser generation of bad food male with a, I believe, 3rd generation female to be able to at least have somebody to mate. and then it took 5 generations to bring back the perfect health. The healthier diets, again, produced all the wider dental arches with room for all the teeth. It's really astounding. What we think of as health is warped. What we think of as beauty is warped. I mean, I feel sorry for all the women in our current society because everybody's supposed to be as skinny as a rail. And we're not supposed to be as skinny as a rail. The people that were found in traditional populations that didn't have any of these problems, none of them were Twinkies. You know, they weren't obese, but they weren't as skinny as a rail. So just a few of some of the photographs they found, the Isle of Harris, and the normal development had a wider face, a wider dental arch. And one of the other aisles in Barnsley, it was documenting all the various different problems, but you could also just see that the faces were becoming narrower. So it's just one of many, many different ways to take a look at some of the differences that occur when you're not eating correctly. The wider faces had room for all the teeth, and these, of course, are youngsters, but it didn't matter. He was taking pictures of people, there are hundreds of them in the book, into old age, on their traditional diets, all the teeth were there. Now, these are people who didn't know what a toothbrush was. Dental floss had not yet been invented, and yet they had no cavities. I can't say they had no cavitations because there wasn't anybody there doing oral surgery to look, but they had no health problems. And all of what we do to treat in dentistry wasn't being done. Now, that's not to say that what we're doing is wrong. That would be far from me to say. We're helping people in all the ways we can. However, when somebody says, I do holistic dentistry, I kill the bacteria in my patient's mouths with antibiotics. Now, holistic should mean, basically holistic means treating the whole. But to me, holistic means trying whatever possible to get to the cause. If Weston Price's research doesn't show demonstrably that the cause is eating the wrong food, I don't know what does. So we really need to spend a little bit more time talking about eating and diet, and it is appropriate. Now, these same populations, when good old civilization started infringing, and people started eating white sugar, white flour, and getting away from their diets, we ended up with the older population missing teeth, having rotted teeth, all over the place, whereas the same older people that were still eating traditionally, none of this happened. It simply wasn't there. Healthy populations had little tooth decay, basically close to zero. They were happy people, which may sound like, well, yeah, so, they were happy people. No, it's very, very important because we've got so many people on antidepressant medications and uppers to wake up and downers to go to sleep. All populations he studied, all over the planet, didn't matter where they were happy people. You can't get a whole township of happy people today. We don't eat well enough to be happy people. It's really too bad. Again, little or no conflict. They got along well with themselves and the other people in the populations. They were strong. They were active. And today, we have teeth that are wrought with decay. Today's population is loaded with emotional problems and numerous prescription drugs. And of course, obviously, we are no longer outdoors. We are mostly inactive. And yet, even though we're indoors and inactive, we manage to have way more conflict than the outdoors active populations that are being studied. So it gets to be really, really sad. So let's take a look at our diets. And we've got Price's Healthy Tribes and our population. I just made a couple quick comparisons. So Price's tribes, Dr. Price's tribes, receive lots of sunlight. Unless you've been in a cave for the last 5 years, and of course this group hasn't been because you're the interested people, you know that there's been a tremendous amount of research on vitamin D. And vitamin D is now linked to, they're up to 7 different cancers, diabetes is being linked, and high blood pressure is being linked, and of course, obviously, osteoporosis. And where do we get our vitamin D? We're supposed to make it ourselves. It gets made from sun exposure. If you're out there between 11 and 1, when medicine tells you to stay away, the new little, it's not quite an acronym, but what the Vitamin D Research Council is saying is if your shadow is not shorter than you are, you're not making any vitamin D. If your shadow is longer than you are, you're not making any vitamin D. That's the new thing they've come up with to make it easy. If you're in a part of the world at the right time of year, and you are, let's say, in a bathing suit, so you've got plenty of sun exposure, skin exposure, but your shadow is longer than you are, the angle of the sun is such that you're not making vitamin D. And so They had lots of sunlight, lots of vitamin D. We received little or no sun. We get little or no D. They didn't have sunscreen. They didn't know what it was. We're covered with SPF 30, 50, 100, whatever anybody can get. I don't use sunscreen. The only time I'll ever put sunscreen on is if I would otherwise be out for so long that I'm going to burn. We don't want to burn. Burning is not good. So sunscreens really only, let's say, healthy use would be to prevent the burn. Now you got to go find a good one because most of them are loaded with toxic chemicals in them, some of which have been linked to skin cancer. And so what I usually say in my classes is that the American public is too busy lathering cancer-causing sunscreens onto their skin to realize that they shouldn't be putting any on at all most of the time. They ate wild fruits and berries when they were in season. We eat commercial varieties, and because we can ship them in from all over the planet, we don't eat them in season. We eat them 12 months of the year. None of the tribes were eating all of these sugar-containing fruit 12 months of the year, unless they're in the tropics, and they were like 12 months of the year, which is possible in some areas. But remember, those people were so active they could burn off the calories. And so we're eating way, way too much sugar. And you can get way too much sugar in fruits just as well. They drank mostly water. They didn't have all sorts of other types of drinks. Some of them fermented, some various different things. Had some things that would be kefir, and occasionally there were some fermented beverages, but mostly water. We drink what? Sugar-laden juices, sodas, and of course alcohol. All of their meats were wild caught, and they ate all the organs. So they ate the liver, got a lot of vitamin A, ate the heart, got a lot of CoQ10, ate the kidneys. I mean, all of these, we don't do this anymore. We eat domestic meats, and the organs used to be thrown out, but now there are enough people that are following some of Price's work that they do get sold, and of course they grind them up into animal food for those people like myself that understand that an animal would never eat something dry, would never eat something out of a package. If you want healthy as animals, then you not only want to give them raw meats, but you want to give them parts of the animal they would have eaten if they killed it themselves, not just the muscle meats that we eat. Everything always had its natural fats in it. It's very, very important. We need the fats that are there as long as the animal was eating its proper diet. If you take beef, for example, and you feed them grains, you have a complete change in the fatty acid content, and now you have an unhealthy type of food because they've eaten a non-species specific food. If they're out there grazing on grass, then they have as many essential fatty acids, omega-3s, as your wild-caught salmon. So everything they were eating had been eating what it was supposed to be eating. In the United States, reduced fat sells best. People don't understand that as soon as you have a label that says reduced, and I don't care what it says after that, you don't want it. We don't want anything reduced. We want whatever nature provided to us, and we need to leave it alone. Most of the tribes he was studying ate their foods raw, including animal foods, or with minimal cooking. There were some that we were able to cook. We cook everything to death. Then we put it in the refrigerator. Then we reheat it. Then we put it in the refrigerator, reheat it again. Maybe we microwave it. So we're really, let's see how much we can destroy when we're trying to get our nutrients out. It seems like what we're really actually doing. Starches, when we did have starches, because they weren't eating only animal products. They did eat some grains, but they were totally whole. They did eat some beans. They ate some tuberous vegetables, but nothing was being denatured. And all of our starches were pretty much processed to death. So, you know, white flour, white sugar, and most people don't even know that if you buy a loaf of bread and it says whole wheat, that doesn't have to have any more whole wheat in it than the one that says white bread. If it doesn't have the word 100, or it's not a word, it doesn't have the title 100% whole wheat, well, of course it's got wheat in it. So we have a lot of misrepresentation with the graces of our government because of big business. And so they didn't have any of that. All their starches were worked off. They were outside. They were doing things. All of our starches, we either wear them or they destroy our immune function. So if we can't live like Price's tribes, what else can we do to improve our health? Probably the single most important thing you can do having to do with diet is to keep your blood sugar as level as you can do so. And there are lots of different ways to do that. But the hemoglobin A1C test is a clinical nutritionist who I like a lot. He's had one of the top of all the various different nutrition conferences of the year, although we didn't have one this year because of the economy. And that's Robert Crayhon, C-R-A-Y-H-O-N. And he said at one of his conferences in the last couple of years, if I could only run one blood test on every only one test. I want you to be able to predict for the next 20 years the likelihood that the person whose single one blood value you're looking at is likely to continue to be healthy. Is there such a test? And he said, well, I would pick the hemoglobin A1C. Because the hemoglobin A1C is looking at your body's sugar handling capacity. Not yesterday, not the day before yesterday, not the week before yesterday, but for approximately the last 90 days. Diabetics love to eat really, really well for about 36 hours before they go in to see the doctor, so that their blood glucose level will look good. If the diabetic doctor knows anything about what he should be knowing about, or she should be knowing about, they don't look at the blood glucose level. They run the hemoglobin A1C, and they go, oh, I see you. When they look at the glucose level, they say, I see you ate pretty well for the last day and a half. But generally, they're eating lousy because the HA1C is way too high. So that's a very good way to look at yourself or anybody that you're looking at to see how well their body is handling the most probably too much various different starches, sugars, and alcohols they're consuming. Adequate animal fats and proteins are, of course, the best way to hold your blood sugar level. And I generally have my students and some of my patients do a simple test. I say, what I want you to do is take whatever breakfast you're eating if it's not an animal breakfast. So if you're having waffles for breakfast, pancakes for breakfast, toast and coffee for breakfast, or all the other horrible things that many people have, I want you to, for 2 days, have that breakfast, and write down the time you finish the breakfast. And then write down the time you first start to feel, I'm getting hungry, I have to eat. And then for 2 days after that, I want you to have nothing for breakfast except animal fats, animal proteins, and some water. So I don't care if it's some leftover steak or leftover chicken, or you can cook yourself up some fresh steak or chicken, or if it's 3 or 4 eggs. But make sure you're having enough, because somebody will call me up and say, I tried your experiment, and the waffles I had kept me for 2 hours, but the 2 eggs didn't. How many waffles do you eat? Oh, a plate full of waffles. So you're replacing a plate full of waffles with 2 eggs? That's not a replacement. Replace it with 4 eggs. I mean, have a substantial meal. And what you usually find is you get another 2 hours at least of blood sugar stabilization. So all those snacks you were eating, which for most people are healthy foods, and for a lot of people are making it hard for them to keep their weight stable or lose weight or whatever, all those, they're not necessary anymore, because now you had your blood sugar stay so level for so long, you don't need them, which is fabulous. And so I have to do that. And then the last 2 days, days number 5 and 6, I want you to have the same high protein, high fat breakfast. I don't care, whatever it was. 4 eggs, a piece of steak, whatever it may be. But pick 1 or 2 foods that you normally eat that I've now taught them were bad. So like have 1 of your 5 waffles, have a piece of bread, have your glass of orange juice, and add that into the same amount of fats and proteins. So you're having more calories, and watch how much faster you get hungry. Because you just ate sabotage foods. That's the word I gave many years ago. You just ate foods that sabotage your body's ability to hold the blood sugar level. And people do that, and they go, wow, okay, so I can really decide whether or not I'm going to be able to go for hours and hours and hours and hours without eating, by just not eating the foods that are bad for me, and then they have to start changing over because it's hard. I haven't had a piece of bread in, 10 years. I don't miss it at all anymore. I love having boundless energy all day long. And remember, we're the only we're the only animal that lives for food. What's the next meal going to be? Where are we going to go out to eat? Oh, let's all get together to this restaurant. Every other animal eats because it has no choice. It's busy out there. Maybe it's migrating. Maybe it's building a nest. Maybe it's looking for a mate. And oh darn, it may not feel that it's hungry, it's all instinct, but oh darn, I have to stop what I'm doing and go get something to eat. Goes and gets something to eat, goes back to what it's doing. We do the opposite. And I don't expect you to stop doing the opposite, but if you really love what you do, if you really like your practice, if you really like coming in to see patients, if you really like your spouse and what you're doing, that's what you're living for. The food is just something to sustain you. Maybe good food. I'm a gourmet cook. What I cook tastes delicious, but it's healthy. And the two can be combined. It's very important for people to know that. Be wary of eating way more fruit than we should be eating, because it's astonishing. The government, of course, says eat more fruits and vegetables. The new food pyramid is just as bad as the old food pyramid. It's in color. They've done a little bit better job. It's basically a pyramid that is there for the purpose, well, not the purpose, but of promoting obesity, promoting diabetes. And it's a very good job. We need to instead eat more non-starchy vegetables, less fruit, and try to eat the berries. I mean, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, the berries are way more loaded with nutrients, and they have less sugar in them. And as far as juices, if you take a look at the nutritive value of foods, you're going to find the 12-ounce glass of juice that you just picked the oranges off your tree has about the same amount of sugar as the 12-ounce can of soda pop. And remember, the enemy is the sugar. So, you know, I mean, I'm not going to be ridiculous and tell you that a fresh glass of orange juice is as bad as a glass of soda pop. But it has about the same amount of sugar, and that's what we're trying to avoid. Chemical sweeteners, anybody that's using a chemical sweetener is basically saying oink. Okay, you are a guinea pig. You want to see how long it's going to take before what the FDA investigators found, and which is on a fabulous video called Sweet Misery of Poison World, where they show all the stuff, just about one of them about aspartame. How long it's going to take before we have caused so many neurological problems and so much disease that we start to outlaw some of these things that aren't necessary, because on the other ADA, the American Dietary Association, did 2 huge studies, and they both found the people taking artificial sweeteners didn't lose any more weight than the people that were on sugar. So it doesn't even do what we want it to do, and therefore we're causing major, major problems. We want to try and reduce, I put there avoid, but try and reduce refined grains as much as you can in sweets and candies, and avoid most vegetable oils. The tropical oils, which are the ones that we've been told are horrible, and basically all the saturated fats. So tropical oils would be, of course, obviously palm kernel oil and coconut oil, both of which are very, very healthy and have no problems whatsoever, and cannot, by the way, contain cholesterol. The cholesterol is an animal molecule. Last time I looked, palm kernels and coconuts didn't raise their young. So no cholesterol in either one of them. Butter is also very good for you, but most of the vegetable oils have been so damaged that what happens is a lot of what you've been listening to on some of the other lecturers having to do with our bodies not being able to have enough oxygen or needing more NAD for oxygenation, all these various different things are because the foods that we're eating are causing those oxygen deficits. A lot of what we're eating oxidized fats, not just the hydrogenated fats. Regular old non-hydrogenated, over-processed fats, which are so damaged that if they hadn't deodorized them, they would stink, they're rancid. But they then heat them up even higher to burn off, and I made up a name years ago, to burn off the indicator molecules that nature so kindly put in there so that we would know that they were bad for them. They burn the indicator molecules off, so you can get corn oil, safflower oil, all the various different oils, which are totally destroyed and will greatly increase your body's need for this oxygen that we've just been listening to lectures on how important it is. And wouldn't it be nice if, in addition to maybe some ozone and maybe some NAD and all sorts of different things, wouldn't it be nice if we could simply eat in such a way that we would already have close to enough oxygen because we're not using it all up? This is very interesting. That's what happens when you go from a PC to a Mac. Somehow or other, it's decided that it wants to reintroduce each of these sentences again. So we're going to go through that real quick so we can get to the next slide. And the last one down there, which is do not tell your body that cholesterol is bad. I lecture on that for hours. Cholesterol is a repair substance. Your body is making it because it needs it. Don't tell your body is stupid if you're trying to do a good thing. If your body has decided to need more cholesterol, find out why. Take more vitamin C. Work with somebody to help your antioxidant level go up enough that it doesn't need all of that. Bring in liver support so it's not doing things that it doesn't need to. But don't tell it it's wrong by taking a drug to stop it. So, since we can't possibly all eat in the way Price has tried to eat it, and since we can't all eat, actually I shouldn't say can't, that's really not fair. Since we're not all going to eat in the way that would be most beneficial for our health. Yes, I eat some raw animal protein. I generally drink an average of 6 quarts a week of whole, raw, grass-fed milk. I have many patients on that. They're totally intolerant to milk. Most of them have no problem with the raw grass-fed. Because bringing in some raw animal protein is helpful. And I make smoothies and they have raw eggs in them all the time. And yeah, they're organic eggs. I don't worry about bacteria at all. But since we're not going to do that, what other things can we do? in addition to whatever other changes that you do make your diet healthier. So for bone and teeth, jaw building supplements, vitamin D is very, very important. The Vitamin D Council is made up of a number of different scientists. I believe I have now heard every single one of them at one or two different lectures. And, you know, they're doing different research studies, but basically what I'm taking out of it is, number one, the only test you want to do is called 25-hydroxyvitamin D. And that's 25-OH vitamin D. That's the test you want. Recently, the council released a very interesting piece of information. They told us to stop using Quest for the vitamin D test because Dr. Cannell has ascertained that they're not doing it right. And whether they're starting to do it right now, I don't know. But he says get it at LabCorp, because if you get the test done at Quest, you've got to assume that they're about 33% higher than the person's level really is. So if it comes back at, let's say, 50, they're probably really about, 34, 35, and you don't really realize that they were low. So hopefully they've changed that by now. I don't know. But he says use LabCorp. But that we want a 50 to 70, and this may be raised again as they continue to do more research, because until you're at 50 on that particular test, 25-hydroxyvitamin D, your body doesn't store anything. And we want to make sure you've got enough for all the things you're doing. Magnesium, I've had 2 or 3 lectures here I've listened to that have stressed how important magnesium is. But if you don't test it, you don't know whether or not you're low. Most people are doing a standard serum test, and that was shown basically to be almost useless by Mildred Seelig, who was one of the top researchers for magnesium. She died about a year and a half ago. But what she said was, don't even bother to look at your serum magnesium. It is simply useless and it will throw you in the wrong direction. So there are specialty tests for magnesium, but of the standard labs, the easiest one to get is the red blood cell, or RBC magnesium. And you want that number to be at least in the top 25%, heck, I'd like it in the top 10% of their reference range. Because the reference range, as a couple of other lecturers have mentioned, could not have been on healthy people because they don't know what healthy people are. And if they knew what they are, they wouldn't be able to find enough to develop a reference range. So I always like it, for example, if the RBC magnesium on a lab test comes back and it says the reference range is, I'm going to make these numbers up, they don't have one in front of me, 3.5 to 6.1. Then I want my patient to be 5.8 to 6.6. I'm happy if it says they're high, because those were healthy people. So I want the top 10, 15% or a little above. Vitamin K1, if the person is not on Coumadin, I generally put people on 1,000 micrograms or 1 milligram a day of K1. I've looked at all the K2 and K3 and K7, and I'm getting very, very good results on K1. And most people are not getting enough K1 because a small amount comes in from your dark green leafy vegetables. The rest of it is coming in from the bacteria. You don't have enough of the good ones in your intestines that are supposed to be making it. And just a little tidbit for you, easy bruising is almost always caused by K1 deficiency. So if you've got somebody in which they bruise easily and you put them on 1 milligram of K1 a day, my experience for the last 15 years is that 90% of them, their easy bruising is gone within the next 2 months. And they will thank you over and over and over again because 15 doctors have already told them, look, you're getting older. My parents bruise easily too. Don't worry about it. Silica, I prefer one of the drops that are made in Belgium. Silica is glass, of course, so it's not very absorbable, and therefore most people are deficient in it. It's not in the soil in decent quantities, so I always bring up the silica to be able to help anything having to do with the skeleton. That includes our teeth. So I bring in some additional silica. Boron, if somebody's got a good multivitamin, which has at least 3 milligrams of boron in it, that may be enough for them. But somewhere between 3 to 6 milligrams, and I'd like to hear total from supplements. I like to make sure if somebody comes into my box, they have to bring every supplement they're on. Because I want to see what's in all of them, because there are so many different overlaps. Maybe I can get rid of 5 supplements and give them one good multi, and the next person I'm going to put them on 5 supplements because they've never taken one. Calcium, my favorite for building strong teeth, nails, etc., is the hydroxyapatite form. Walter Willett, the head of the Department of Chemistry at Harvard Medical School, was asked in a conference I was at a couple years ago, how much calcium do you believe people should take as a supplement over and above what's in a fairly healthy diet? And he said that he doesn't like any of the U.S. research. The 1,000 and 2,000 milligram stuff is all nonsense. The best research he had seen was done, I believe, in Great Britain, and he said somewhere between 400 to 800 milligrams a day. That's what I find. Too much calcium causes depression, causes other different problems. That's not the reason for the bone structure going away in the teeth or the rest of the skeleton. How do we know? Every single study that's been done on osteoporosis, in which they've used calcium for the study, has never been able to reverse it. Heck, it's never even been able to stop it. All they can do is slow it down, because it's all these other things that are really doing it. They're not bringing those in. We don't need more calcium. We need more of the things to help the body utilize the calcium. Be very wary of the bisphosphonated drugs, of which there are a number of them. Many of you will probably already know this, linked to bone necrosis and cancer. Gum is bacterial anemic infection. What can we do again if we're not going to eat a perfect diet? Folic acid rinses, 5 minutes twice a day. If you're rinsing with a folic acid solution, one of the companies that makes it, where you're putting maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 milligrams, which sounds like a lot, of folic acid in a rinse, swishing it around for 2 or 3 minutes. 5 minutes is better, and then swallowing it. So if you're going to swallow it, I would do maybe 3 or 4 milligrams. Rinse it for 3 to 5 minutes and swallow it twice a day. So you're getting 7 to 8 milligrams. In many people, it reverses gum problems. High absorption CoQ10. Generally, you have to get upwards of at least 300 milligrams a day to start to help gum problems. The various home dental irrigator units, there are quite a number of them on the market. I know there are a lot of dentists in here that, because you don't want to push anything on people, you don't carry them and you don't mention them. You need to. That's what we know. We're trying to help people. And I've seen so many people where after they pick up a good home irrigator, home dental irrigator, and add one of the better herbal solutions, a couple of pumps of them, one of them is in the exhibit hall, the one that I use, it can be absolutely astonishing over the next couple of months. 6 millimeter pockets go down to 4, go to 3, 3 millimeter pockets go down to 2, and all they've done is started to use an irrigator after breakfast and before bed, preferably with one of the good herbal solutions added, to get all that stuff out between your teeth and the crevicular fluid that's there after you're finished brushing. You want to do an experiment, eat a salad, and then brush your teeth really, really well. Oh, just super, super well. Rinse better than you've ever rinsed in your entire life, and then use an irrigator and watch the little pieces of the salad come out that would have been there all night long had you not used it. Very, very good for you to recommend to the patients. You can investigate soft tissue lasers for gum repair. There's some stuff out there. And you really need to tell your patients they need to avoid sweets as well as also some acid foods. But sweets is a major, major problem. No all-day sipping of sodas or lemonade. Somebody loves lemonade. Squeeze some lemon in a glass of water. Very good for you. Don't rinse your mouth out after. People that are sipping it all day long, you've got acidic liquids touching your teeth all day long. Vitamin C we've gone over a couple times. Dr. Joplin went over it very, very well. But I have every one of my patients on a bare minimum of 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C. That's 1,000 3 times a day because I want to make sure that it actually does stay there. How about substances that can be helpful in killing bacteria and parasites? Well, there are a couple different ones. Oregano oil seems to be one of the best ones out there, and you have to find the good ones. Some of the oregano oil products actually don't contain oregano oil. The best book I've ever seen written on oregano oil was written by Dr. Ingram. He changed his name from Ingram to Ingram and put an N in there because everybody was mispronouncing it. Sorry, people mispronounce Getoff because they can't believe it, but I'm not going to change my name. But Yours in the cover is a phenomenal book on the ways in which oregano oil can help many, many different things. And it can be applied topically. You got to do it real slowly because it really, I wouldn't say it stings, it's very strong. So you start by taking maybe a 25% solution of oregano oil and extra virgin olive oil, add a few more drops of extra virgin olive oil to it, and you let the patient do that, massage it in the area. And then after they've done that a little, say, well, come, put a little less of the olive oil in. Go ahead and let it get up and straight until they end up at maybe 25, 30% oregano oil. And I've seen that kill all sorts of infections of people who otherwise were going to lose a tooth. And of course, I hate it when people are going to lose a tooth. I do everything I can to make it so they're not going to have to lose a tooth, and we can work on that abscess and not need the extraction. If it has to be done, that's fine. Be careful of the fumes. You don't want to put oregano oil, like on something around your eye, because the fumes from oregano oil are going to sting horribly. But otherwise, it's a phenomenal substance. And you need to understand it is, that's why I made that bold a different color, it is ethical for you to educate your parents, that's cute. My students say, I love to just make up words, throw new things in all the time because my mouth is ahead of my brain. But to educate your patients about methods to improve their oral health, okay? Dentists, oral health. We're all, you get told you're not allowed to go outside of oral health. That's okay. But there are foods and other things which have to do with oral health, having to do with sweets, etc. So therefore, that is totally ethical. If you see a patient that comes in and they've dramatically improved, if there is anything you know that you've done that would give you a reason that they've dramatically improved, don't just say, wow, your teeth look better. Don't tell your hygienist to say, wow, their teeth look better. Tell your hygienist, if they ever see this, tell me, I want to come in there, I want to find out what this person's doing. How do we learn? It's the best possible way to learn. How did I find out that the dental irrigators with an herbal solution went in so well? A woman that interned with me for 3 years to get her clinical nutrition credential said all the different things we were doing. One change had my hygienist say, my goodness, what are you doing? I mean, 6 millimeter pockets are 4s, and the 4s are 3s, and 3s are 2s. What did you change? All she had done was started to use a dental irrigator with a couple pumps of a good herbal solution that's made for that particular procedure. And get the name of the person they're going to. Call the person, call that man or woman up. Find somebody to refer to. Carry a dental irrigator. People will say, oh yeah, I should buy one. If you can sell it to them, they now own it. They are 100 more times likely, 100% more times likely to use it if you sell it to them and say use it, than if they say, yeah, I'll have to think about that. It's just the way we are. Holistic doesn't mean killing the amoeba with antibiotics. It means making the mouth inhospitable. And that, of course, is with diet. Makes a huge, huge difference. And by the way, oregano oil does kill amoeba. So you can try some holistic things first. If they don't work, you can always fall back on the other things. So, by the time we start to educate patients on the effects of sugar, the research on sugar is absolutely overwhelming. There are so many research studies that have been published on sugar. And that has to do with diabetes, and it has to do with obesity, and it has to do with cancer. It's all out there, and yet the associations are not looking at it because they've all been given a lot of money to not look at it. The research on sugar and cancer is overwhelming, on sugar and diabetes is overwhelming, on sugar and obesity is overwhelming, and the ability of big business to suppress all this research is criminal and overwhelming.
Dentists who study nutrition know the danger of sugar.
When we were in dental school, there was a great deal of exposure to the research done by Winston Price on the sugar issue regarding tribes all over the world. And there was no question that we were showing how sugar is the main cause of dental decay. We went further, and the reason why people have crooked teeth is because of the refined sugars that we're eating.
A child's dentist back in 2003 would have been informed by the American Academy of Pediatric Dentistry that frequent consumption of sugars in any beverage could be a significant factor in the child and adolescent diet that contributes to the initiation and progression of dental caries. And then Coca-Cola gave $1 million to the Academy. Shortly afterward, the statement was changed to say, scientific evidence is certainly not clear of the exact role that soft drinks play in terms of children's oral disease.
Now, Sweet Suicide is the title of a movie that was just released through Price Pottenger. It was done by Nancy Appleton, who is one of our top sugar experts. She's got a couple different books, like The Sugar Habit, Suicide by Sugar is a book of hers that's coming out in about a month. And she put together an hour movie, professionally done. And that's just a tiny little clip. But it's phenomenal because they go over, just in the way they did here, where you're taking a look at a little snippets of different things, how the American Diabetes Association, the American Cancer Society, all these different organizations are saying on their website that there aren't any problems with sugar. The Diabetes Association is even telling the people there and the doctors, oh yeah, you know, your habits of light and sweet, those are good. Maybe you should have a little less, but they're okay. And then they start showing some of the research studies on diabetes and sugar, and diabetes and substance, diabetes and taste. And they go over to Cancer Society, and cancer and sugar, and cancer and sugar, and cancer and sugar. The research is very, very, very clear. It's all being suppressed. So if you want to show that to people, because maybe some doctor, okay, you're the dentist telling them they should eat a lot less sugar, it'll make their overall health better, but really, I'm concerned with your dental health, and it'll make your dental health a lot better. Well, actually, my doctor, and worse yet, my dietitian, told me that sugar really is the problem, white flour is the problem, because that's what they're told. Because they get all their money from the sugar and the artificial sweet registries. So, you know, dietitians, registered dietitians, RDs, unless they have gone outside of the box, just as everybody here has, They know only what they were taught. And they were taught that sugar is not a problem. They were taught that artificial sweeteners are not a problem. And heck, if you grab an ADA journal, you have full-page ads for sucralose, full-page ads for aspartame, and all this different stuff on there. You really think that they're going to put this stuff down when their funding comes in from it? They don't. So unless they've gone outside of the box as you have and said, hey, give us the true facts, which is ridiculous because there's only one kind of fact, they don't know that. So you are likely to have a patient where you'll say you really need to take a look at your sugar consumption because there's got to be something going on with what I see in your mouth. And they say, yeah, I mentioned that to my doctor. My doctor said, no, sugars and starches and this, that has nothing to do with it. If you have one of these videos playing in your office, and it's only an hour movie, it's not that long. They can see 20 minutes of it while they're waiting to see. They can get this and they can realize not only that what they've been told is wrong, but it gets smacked at them because you have the organizations that got $1 million and now it's not there anymore. And here's, Journal of the American Medical Association, the Lancet, with these various different research papers showing the opposite of what their doctor taught them. And so they get to see both that what they were taught was wrong, because the doctor was simply ignorant of those facts, and why. And now they'll believe you, and maybe they'll cut down their sugar, it'll be helpful. So anything that you can do to help educate your patient and your family as to better health, less starches, less alcohols, less sugars, is going to come back 100 times over. And I mean, I've actually had professionals in different categories, could be dentists, could be physicians, or whoever I'm lecturing to, that are worried about telling their patients things that may make them need the professional less. I mean, I even have doctors, because I get doctors that come in and take my classes, that say, but if I start talking about nutritionists, or even if I were to send some of my patients to come and see you, that's going to destroy my practice. No, it's not. That's not what happens. What happens is they start telling all their friends, my dentist, my doctor, this person's amazing. They'll send me to another practitioner to help get me healthy enough that I'll need them less. You've got to go to this person. And their practice goes up instead. Even if there's a little bit of a lag time, it goes up instead. Because everybody wants to go to the person who cares so much about their health that you will send them to somebody else that you think knows some specific thing better to be able to help them better, even if it means that you'll see them less because they'll be healthier. So it's always worthwhile doing. My girls are in every position I've ever seen in my life. So I probably have more pictures of them than I could ever have anywhere. And they'll get somewhere and go, let's see, do I have a picture of that? My wife will walk over. It'll be probably 5,000. Oh, no, it can't be. I'll go take another one. So, we've got the booth in the other room, and I thank you very, very much for your attention.